ねえ今どうして僕ら生まれたのねえほらどうして僕ら出会ったの
Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into a new discussion from me. Not really new because I've actually attempted this before under this name, but I was going to make it a podcast. Whereas now it is not going to specifically be a podcast. It is going to be a general discussion header topic thing for me. And you're reading it as Manga to Game. Which was something I had meant to continue on as a podcast a while back. I tried to get it going with Jay, and we were having so many audio issues and things at the time, and it's just like, I was like, I really wasn't in control of a whole lot of the stuff that screwed it up. And then on top of that, having the lag from my internet being spotty at the time, it was annoying. It was hell of annoying. But I want to give a brief history on how I even came up with the series. And that was well before I tried to make it a podcast itself. So back during the days of Associated Content / Yahoo Voices, because that's what it became along the way, I did editorials. This was well before I got into making video content and discussions on YouTube. Maybe only a couple years before that, actually. So for a good while, I just did any subject that came to mind. And then I'd say like by the second year or so, I really put focus on video games and gaming, because that was what I was more passionate about. And that was where the name Great Video Game Ideas Not Used came from, which was my original channel name on YouTube, or GVGINU for short. It was a long acronym, and it took people a long time to practice it and get it right. And I remember people complaining to me because I was changing my name. It was like, I just got this down. Why are you changing the name? But the Game Idea Guy sounds better and easier and rolls off the tongue a little bit better than GVGINU, even though I can still do it because I'm the one that came up with it. But that little side tidbit out the way. What I was doing with my editorials was talking about different things in gaming. I did do a couple discussions about stuff that was newsworthy, but for the most part, I talked about like either fan projects that got ceased and desisted, or games that games that just disappeared that we heard nothing about. Some of them were my original game ideas. Some of them were crossover game ideas. That's where the Cross Zone series came from. And then a couple of them I did some quick runs of games that were manga or anime that would be good as video games if they were done. Think back during the 360 PS3 Wii era. That's where this came from. So I was what words were I'm looking for? Well, I wanted to do this as a series for a long time. I wanted to do it as a podcast because I thought that more voices on it would make it a better discussion. But I was not good at bringing this into a podcast format. Like, all of the issues dealing with Hangouts on air at the time and my internet and stuff, it was annoying. I could probably make it a podcast now, but at the same time, I really want to just get the ideas out there and get people to discuss them. So if I can just get the ideas out there and have people talking about it and discussing it, that means more to me than the specific formatting of it. That said, I'm going to go back and reprise what my original episode was, and it's still on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to listen in. We really didn't really get into it the way I wanted to, and I think that that's wholly on me because I was thinking about things, but I was thinking about too many things at the same time. So yeah, there were a lot of brief pauses where I'm sitting here like, what's the next thing I should talk about? And it didn't flow as naturally as I would have liked it to. So I'm reprising that, and that was Casshern Prelude to Sin. So in order to get into that, I have to give a brief explanation of what Casshern Robot Hunter is and Casshern Sins. I'm not going to dive fully into the details of both series. I'm just going to give some of the key details that are between them that are similar and some of the ones that are different. If you are interested in watching them, Casshern Robot Hunter is a 3-part OVA. It's much shorter than Casshern Sins as far as watching. I think there was a manga for Casshern, but I don't know for certain. I've never seen it, so I don't know if it exists or not. Casshern Sins was a 12 episode anime. Different timelines. And Casshern is far more brutal and violent than Casshern was. And I say that honestly, like Casshern itself, if in context, was a brutal story, but Casshern took that and amped it up. Whereas Casshern would be considered the more campy of the two. And if anybody recognizes the name Casshern from playing Tatsunoko versus Capcom, yeah, that's because Casshern and Casshern are Tatsunoko character. Now getting on with it. The similarity between the two of them is that there was a great war between humans and robots on Earth. Now, Casshern takes place at an earlier point while the war, I believe, is still active. It's winding down, but it's still active. And in the Casshern storyline, Casshern, which I don't remember what his name was when he was a human, was originally human. And he got injured in an attack on one of the bases that he was there at. And he was basically dying. And his only choice to live was to have his mind moved into a robotic body. So he was like, once he was shot and he was going to die. That was it. He was gravely injured. Another main character in this is the girl Luna. In Casshern, Luna is a human being. She is part of the human war effort. Actually, I think she's one of the leaders. And her and Casshern had a close relationship from what you can tell by the story. I don't know how close exactly, but they had a close enough relationship. But then again, I haven't seen it in years, so that's why I don't remember how close they actually were. But Casshern was the tide turner for the humans. He was the tide turner for the humans and ended up winning the war for the human beings because he could fight on par with the robots. Given the circumstances, he did have a weakness he did have a weakness, which was that he was less powerful without solar radiation. But that's a whole thing. But Casshern was the reason that the humans won the war against Breaking Boss. Now flip that in Casshern Sins, that war happened. But Casshern and Luna were both robots. Luna, again, being a leader amongst the robots. and Casshern being one of the best, if not the best, fighters among the robots, and went on a large spree killing humans and whoever stepped in his way. It was Casshern, Dio, and someone else. Like, I can't remember the female robot character's name, the third up from them. But Dio was literally supposed to be the twin to Casshern, even though Casshern was still like a step ahead of him. Like, it was crazy how that worked itself out. But that being said, the war ended where almost all of humanity was wiped out. There were some people here and there, but for the most part, almost all of humanity was wiped out. That's all I'm going to tell you for Casshern Sins, because there's actually a lot more to it, and I don't want to spoil the opportunity for someone who may not have seen it. But you can go ahead and check that out on your own. That said, I want to take the main plot points from the story of Casshern and turn them into something to make sort of well, I did name it Casshern Prelude to Sin. So sort of a prequel to Casshern Sins before Casshern goes into a hibernation sleep and then wakes up and sees the world in disarray and destruction and all of that. Now, during this war, like, most of this stuff would apply back and forth across the board. During the war, humans were keeping robots at bay, and then eventually Casshern and his twin and the other robot were all made. So what this would be for me, from my standpoint, is Casshern waking up. Not Casshern waking up. And Breaking Boss was the overall general that led this war against the humans. That detail doesn't change. Breaking Boss gives them instructions. They start to carry out missions, and they are building up their skills along the way. Now, as far as a gameplay format, I would see either something like Sleeping Dogs being an option, or if somebody doesn't want to do a full 3D martial arts combat thing, even though it would look great, utilizing the abilities that Casshern should have or should be able to develop at this point in time, you could do a 2D platformer, make it very Metroid-esque, but not completely like Metroid, somewhere between what you would say Metroid is and what the original Mega Man Zero was, where you have a vast area you can travel through, and there's different shortcuts to get back and forth, but you still have that environment to work on and hone yourself in. One, because it's easier to condense things down, or even make several locations that are open areas like that in 2D, but you have to travel between them utilizing different teleportation points. Not something that would be not something that wouldn't fit within the story, is all I'm saying. So you can return to a place if a mission dictates it that you have to go back. But either of those would be acceptable for the gameplay foundation. Though I think that they would have to probably make it have some flashy some flashy animations, like a Shonen Jump anime or something, even though this is Tatsunoko. But still, there's open room for there to be a lot of fighting, a lot of missions, a lot of breakdown of what's happening with the humans and their weapons development against the robots. So truthfully, there's a lot of room to create a decent story, and you can even utilize some of the locations from Casshern Robot Hunter, but in a flipped scenario where Casshern is facing off against like this well-trained human soldier with like maybe this really powerful mech or bodysuit that allows him to be able to fight. See, I see all these things, and I think that would be awesome to do. And it's like I could see how that would turn into a big thing, and then maybe there is this one person that Casshern runs into multiple times, which would explain why Friender was created, because you could say he didn't originally have Friender, and Friender was created to be an assistant to Casshern specifically, whereas his brother Dio doesn't have Friender or anything. Well, I think he had it. Did he have a dog in that series? I don't remember. But Friender was definitely for Casshern. So Dio could have his own dog. I just don't remember if he did or not, because I haven't seen that anime in so long. But they would basically tear through a lot of different things, a lot of different enemies and stuff. And you could have the human part of this battle ending. You can have the human war ending. Now, after that, after the war with the humans is over, it could transition the story over to the robots battling for supremacy amongst themselves. Because if I remember correctly, that actually did happen in the story. And if I remember correctly, the thing that is the jumping off point for Sins is that Casshern was actually sent to attempt to assassinate Luna. That's where their connection comes in. You could say he had no connection to her up until this point, other than maybe knowing of who she is and knowing that she was a high ranked or highly respected member among the robot community. But that's about, I think, the only thing that you can really do with it. I think it stops there. And there are some story points where characters that you meet in Sins actually, well, characters that Casshern meets in Sins, he has history with them from this point. So it would have to start off with the human war, because you'd have to have that war be there, because with the creation of Casshern and his twin and the other robot, they basically won that war. They were the ones that won the war for the robots. So just like in Casshern Robot Hunter, where Casshern is the one that won the war for the humans, Casshern would be the one that won the war for the robots. And that was through a series of different missions that he took on. So having that be said, and then you'd have loyalties be tested among the robots, because they worked together perfectly fine to take out the humans, but they didn't know who should be their proper leader. And that could start another war in and of itself, which I'm pretty sure that was what the storyline was trying to imply, is that there was another war amongst the robots to determine who was the leader. And now, as far as we know, Casshern never bid for himself to be the leader. He only ever was someone else's weapon. Honestly, there may even be implications that he wasn't in control of himself when he was sent after Luna to attempt to assassinate her. But that's all from the story, and I'm not going to dive into the details of it. You'd actually have to watch Casshern Sins to really understand what I'm talking about. But I think that if Tatsunoko worked with someone to get this going, they'd have something awesome on their hands. it's really just up to them to decide, hey, we want to start turning our characters over to the video game world and producing more from them. Because a lot of Tatsunoko's characters are awesome. Like, I'm not going to lie, like, a lot of their stuff is awesome. You just have to, find the right stuff to play. I mean, not play, but watch. But if you want to have a quick history lesson on a lot of Tatsunoko characters, then you'd want to play Tatsunoko versus Capcom. You're not going to get the whole swath of them, but you would get a decent amount of those characters, and it will probably be very interesting. I'm trying another gameplay format, and I wish I had thought about this at the beginning when I was talking about that. But another gameplay format that could work for this type of game involving this character would be to utilize the format from the Ninja Gaiden series, like the 3D Ninja Gaiden games. They could also use that format. You just do it without weapons. But they still could do that. They could actually do that. And it could be action intensive that way. I hadn't thought about it until just towards the end here. Because it would still be fast paced. But I think that the Sleeping Dogs format works better because you can get in, you have more close range combat and stuff, which is how Casshern generally works. But, I mean, maybe a blend of the two, where you could have it be high speed, but then you can knock enemies into the air and perform like these awesome combos on them. Or make it like Scarlet Nexus is another one that I think has a format that would work. Actually, yeah, Scarlet Nexus or, Astral Chain, any of those, they could definitely get platinum on it. They could definitely get platinum. Would probably do a great job with it. Okay, I got to shut up now. But anybody listening probably gets the general scope of what I'm trying to say. So I'm not going to drag it on too much more. If there are any animes or manga that you think I should check out, that you would like me to do a discussion on, please let me know, because I'll look into them and research them and come up with a concept. I have no problem doing that. I actually have several that I want to do concepts for as is. So if anybody comes up with anything that they would really like me to put some time and effort into, let me know, and I will either read or look them up to get a general idea of how their stories and their systems work, so I can come up with a concept for a game for it. Because I am highly interested in doing more of these. And again, like I said, I have several already at the top of my head that I'm planning to record and do. So, just to get that out the way. But thank you everyone for listening to me ramble. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, please enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.
怖いから繋いだこの手を今君に強く握り返してほしい